This is Sony's 35mm f1.4 G Master lens, and this is Sony's 24mm f1.4 G Master lens. And many of you might be shopping for, one of these lenses for your full frame cameras, and some of you, as I know, are wondering what difference would it be to use a 24 G Master lens in a APS-C crop mode on like a high megapixel camera like A7RIV, and what difference would that make versus a 35 G Master? And here I am with the answers. And today I'm showing you not only my usual, which is like the very sophisticated Lego Qui-Gon Jinn test with the bokeh balls in the background, but also I took a practical approach and went to shoot a couple. I used a tripod so we can have like a proper one-to-one photos and see what is the actual difference between these two. So are you guys ready? Let's do it. Hello everyone, my name is Magic. I'm a wedding photographer, Sony Europe ambassador, father of 4 children. Welcome to my YouTube channel, the YouTube channel about weddings, photography, and gear. If you are into any of these topics, just subscribe and join the magical guild of wizards. Again, I'm still looking for the proper name for our community. And today we are looking at a 24 G Master versus 35 G Master, but it's not gonna be like the typical head-to-head because we are thinking 24 in a crop mode, which a bunch of you asked before in the comments. So I thought I knew the answer, but I waited for my copy of 35 G Master to arrive to do like a proper test, to have more time with it and to play around with it. And actually the results kind of surprised me. And I'm gonna get into that in a second. But first, let's just give like the little overview of these two lenses. So 24 G Master was announced first, like 2 years ago, then 35 G Master followed this year. And the build of these lenses is nearly identical. To be honest, it's really hard to tell a difference. And I already a bunch of times made a mistake taking one of these lenses and thinking it's the other one. So like they both have the same design. Aperture ring that is the clickable, focus ring, custom hold button, AF to MF switch, and the same filter diameter of 67 millimeters. Like the 35 is slightly bigger, but like the difference is really not that noticeable, especially when you have both of them in the backpack and you're just trying to grab one of these. In terms of price, the retail price of these is like identical, like $1,400. But since 24 GM was already out for 2 years, you could probably get it discounted many times. And here in Europe is actually a bigger price difference between these two. So you can get 24 GM quite cheaper than a 35 GM. And thinking about that focal length difference, like in a full frame mode, so both of lenses in the full frame mode, 24 versus 35, like there's a significant difference between these two. I actually made a video about different focal lengths of prime lenses for Sony. You can check it out. It's a really great video. When I take a couple, I have like a wedding shoot and I take photos with each of the lenses I had on me, including 24 and a 35mm lens, and you can clearly see the difference with the overall look of the image if you are shooting both of these in a full frame mode. But how about APS-C mode? And actually, what is the APS-C mode? So APS-C is basically a smaller type of sensor. So it's like you take a full frame sensor and you just cut a piece out of it, and you have like this just the center part. That's just like a physically smaller sensor. And if you mount a lens like a 24 millimeters on a APS-C sensor, it will result with a like cropped image, because whole image is now projected onto the smaller surface of the smaller sensor, meaning 24 times 1.5 is roughly 36 millimeters. So you get the equivalent of the angle of view of the 36 millimeter lens. So 24 millimeters in an APS-C mode should give you the exact same result that you get from a 35mm in a full frame mode. Just like a smaller image, because you are literally cropping the rest of the image. And all the Sony full-frame cameras now have this option that you can just turn on Aps-C mode, and it just basically crops the image. So a 61 megapixel A7R IV camera in Aps-C mode will give you only 26 megapixels. I say only because that's significantly less than 61, but also on the other hand, 26, there's no other Aps-C camera in Sony lineup that will have 26 megapixels. So that is actually the highest megapixel Aps-C Sony camera these days, A7R IV. And actually 26 megapixels is plenty for a lot of us, especially wedding photographers. So actually 24 could be used as both 24 and a 35. But also keep in mind that turning your camera into Aps-C mode is basically the same as cropping the image later on in post-process, except you cannot, take it back to the uncropped again. So that's just the difference that you have to remember about. And if you want to play around and see, different angle of views and how all these changes would affect the overall image, there is a really great website called Dof Calculator. So depth of field calculator, when you can just input the number of the focal length you have, the sensor you have, and it will show you the actual depth of field and even preview how the image will look. And effectively, if you use 24 1.4 on a Aps-C sensor, it should give you like equivalent of the image that you would get on a full frame camera from a 35 1.8 lens. So the depth of field and the overall blur in the image should be different. And this is something that you will actually see in the most sophisticated, super scientific Qui-Gon Jinn test. If you look at these images from 35G master and at 24 on crop, you'll see the difference in the bokeh balls. The bokeh balls are quite smaller on a 24 in crop. They look actually identical compared to a 35 1.8, the small Sony lens that I'm actually using right now to record this with. What is interesting, if you use 35 1.4G master and just step it down to 1.8, the bokeh balls are a little bit bigger. So that is something that I don't know why is that. If you have any answers, let me know down in the comments, but that is something that I noticed when mounting all these lenses on the same camera in the same spot, taking the same photo. But science on the one hand, and then practicality and like how does it actually, the depth of field and this blur affects the image when you are shooting couple, are two different things. So for that, I decided to go and shoot one of the couples that I know. Green surroundings, summer vibes are coming here to Poland, so it was really nice backlit. Everything was green, everything was blooming. Very nice photos. I took a tripod and decided to just go for like a head-to-head comparison photos. Also, if you like the colors on these images, I just launched my Magic Cadabra preset pack, so you can purchase the preset pack including like nearly 2 hours of a editing master class at a discounted price for early bird launch. So yay, launch of the Magic Cadabra presets. Like many of you also asked in the comments before, when will this happen? So yeah, so this is the day. Magic Cadabra is out. Link is in the comments. But yeah, back to the images. So looking at the couple shoots from one lens and then the other in a crop mode, the difference is much less significant, to be honest, especially when you are shooting very close to the subject. And with 35mm, I tend to shoot really close to the couples. So the difference, you would have to really look into, the background and be like, okay, this is slightly more blurred than this one. So 35 1.4G master will give you slightly more blur than a 24 in a crop mode. The difference will be a little bit more noticeable when you are shooting farther from the subject, because the farther you get, the wider the depth of field will get in a 24 lens, even in a crop mode. So then you might notice that in this photo, for example, behind the dude's head, the grass is a little bit more blurred in a 35 1.4 than a 24. And then in this picture, when I was shooting at f4, you'll see even more difference between the blur in these images and, you know, the overall depth of field. But the image itself and the overall image look like, man, like for me it's the same. I kind of like, this is something that I was surprised. I thought that, you know, the overall image look will be still different, but then yeah, hey, that's physics. We're just cutting the piece out of photo. Like, why should it be different? And yeah, it's not that much. So that's one thing. Then on a technical note, you know, comparing one to another, a 24G master, at least my copy, will have slight more of chromatic aberrations. So that is something you might notice in these images. And then a 35G master actually will have like more vignette, but also keep in mind, first, lens corrections were off during this shoot, just to, you know, show you the difference with like the bare lenses. And then 24, we are talking in a crop mode, so we are looking at the center of the image. So we probably cropped out the vignette that 24 is making as a lens. Both lenses are extremely sharp. They're like, I couldn't tell the difference between the sharpness of two of these lenses. Of course, on a 35G master, since we are shooting in a full frame mode, we have twice as many pixels, so we can zoom in more than with a 24 in a crop mode, so we can like zoom in and see more details. But you know, in overall sharpness difference, I wouldn't tell that there is a noticeable difference between these two lenses. And the last technical test that I tried was an AF system, going back and forth, also with 24 in a crop mode, remember, and both seems to be very similar, with 24 kind of having a little edge over 35, I think, like going slightly faster, back and forth, and just look at the videos and decide for yourself. So overall, like after all these photos, I got to the conclusion that 24 can be 35 with no problem. So does it actually make sense to shoot 24 GM in the Aps-C mode? I'd say yes and no. So yes, because all of that I just said and showed you, right? You've seen the images, you've heard me. But no, because you know, shooting in the Aps-C mode, you cannot crop it back, so you cannot uncrop it. So I would prefer probably to shoot 24 in full frame mode and then, you know, crop it manually later on, because then maybe you'll find yourself cropping more to 28 or to 30 millimeters, not necessarily to 35. So that's one thing. But then also, if you are shooting 24 in a full frame mode, you're looking through viewfinder, you know, in like the 24 millimeters field of view. So that is totally different, you know, experience from shooting a 35 millimeter lens. Also, you know, you're losing a lot of pixels. Like with a camera like A7R4, you have 61, like cropping to 26. That's still a lot of pixels. But you know, with A7 III or A7C, you don't have as many pixels to play with. So you know, you're just kind of relying on losing some information that, again, you cannot bring it back. And then there's like one thing cool about having 24 and a 35, because then when you have 35, you can crop it even more. So we can crop it maybe to a 50 or a 50 millimeter lens. Actually, that is something that could be another video. Let me know down in the comments if you want me to compare 35G Master to a 50G Master, since I just pick up my copy as well and could make a video like this. And yeah, that's it. That's my thought. There's no clear answer. Like 24 can be 35, but then, you know, you get something, you lose something. For those of you who just need one lens, that could be a great option. But like for me, you know, I like both, and I keep both. Thanks so much for watching today. Leave a like if you enjoy it. Like click on that bell thing if you want to be notified about all of the other videos, and yeah, see you guys in the next one. Ciao.